Get ready to learn with us on Bass University Live. Bass University Live starts now. Welcome to Bass University Live, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. It's great fishing out there all over the country. It's so amazing to and we're going to be talking with Bank Shaw today, who's a young angler that's just tearing it up out on the MLF, and we're going to be diving into some things with him. In particular, some forward-facing sonar details, post-spawn patterns, and those types of things. And that's what's going on in the Bass Belt, Rich. They're still spawning at our house, and they're pre-spawn up north. So the whole country is lit up with different phases right now. But the fishing's good all over. I keep seeing those pictures of those pre-spawn big smallmouth up there, Rich. It's drawing me up there.
Oh, I'm telling you, who are they coming from? Our boy Jared at Bass Tech Sonar?
I haven't seen Jared's pictures, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Big ones.
Yeah. I just see him coming across my feed from a bunch of guys on Lake Ontario right now, and Champlain, of course, they're pre-spawn up there, and man, it's good stuff down at our house. Hey, you were out this weekend. Did the big one start firing for you?
Well, the wind finally didn't blow, Pete, and so generally for this time of year, with the phase we're working with waters, in the 60s, and there's a lot of fish that haven't been able to spawn on the last moon because of a multitude of things. But it was the first opportunity on Sunday that the wind slicked off when I really got to fish and look and see and flip, and they bit. So it was fun. It was a fun day on the water. It was an odd non-tournament, non-practice, non-anything kind of day. Just kind of get out and fish and have a good time. And absolutely, it was good. The fishing's good. It's getting ready to fire off. It looks like we got a kind of a more stable, high pressure southerly wind pattern kind of setting in on us for the next 10 days. So hopefully that prevailing northwest wind that we've been having every single weekend will kind of just lay off us for a little bit, and we'll get to have some fun fishing on the weekends.
Yeah, we got some big derbies coming up. Of course, we're all the whole Bass U crew, minus Jocelyn, is and Jeff is competing at the Chester County Open down on the Upper Chesapeake, and then give a little shout out to Susquehanna Fishing Tackle. They have their annual Summer Slam going on Sunday, and I know you guys will probably jump in that. We might jump in that too. We're gonna see how things go.
It's such a good cool model. You buy a Shimano reel or rod or G Loomis or any of that family of brands, and you get a new reel, and you get an entry into a tournament where you can win 5 Gs. So it's a good one. It's definitely a good one. It's one of those ones that if you fish the bay, you got to check that box.
I missed it last year. We're overloaded with tournaments and high school tournaments. I am, and it's it's hard to make them all. I mean, we have to be able to, unfortunately, edit our list a little bit to be able to get out there. But I want to speaking of that. I think it's a good time to bring him in right now, because this guy is not editing his list
right at that second,
and he is. I don't know how he's doing it.
Going on, guys. Kind of cut out whenever you switch it there, but. I appreciate you guys. I'm excited to go over a few of my forward-facing techniques and give you guys the full rundown.
Well, we're excited to ask you and dive into that with you, but I got to, we're talking about tournaments, and I can't make them all. I got high school this and team tournament that, and Bass University business. Hard for me to make the tournaments. You're not skipping anything, man. You're in college. You're fishing on the pro level, the top level stuff, and college stuff. How in the world are you pulling all this off?
Man, so one of the biggest things is that my college offers, like at University of North Alabama, is online classes. So if I wasn't able to do online classes, there's no way I'd be able to do it. And kind of the way I look at it's being able to do my schoolwork on the road and everything at the young age. I might as well try to fish as many tournaments as possible while I can. I fish the Toyota Series, the Pro Circuits, and the Bass Pro Tour, and a few college tournaments mixed in if I get the chance. Just because, I mean, fishing that much just all over the country, it allows me to learn so fast and kind of stay ahead of the game a little bit.
That's amazing. How are you doing that? Like, what's a typical day look like for you? Are you fishing all day till dark, then hitting your classes at night, trying to get your assignments done? Man, that's a lot.
Yeah, so some tournaments, actually, like my last Bass Pro Tour event on Beaver out in Arkansas, I actually was doing my finals that week, so it definitely was a little tricky. But, I mean, it's nice having like an off day, or I'll try to knock out as much as I possibly can, because I'll have a few days like in between tournaments here and there to kind of just grind out my schoolwork, and I kind of just have to get off the water for the most part. Like, I can't really fish all day and get back and do it and be able to go at it the next day. So I definitely have to take some time off from the water and just do as much as I possibly can. That's what's good about the online classes. I can kind of just sit down for one whole day and knock out some assignments like throughout the week. That way it gives me the free time to get out there and grind daylight to dark, just because, I mean, heck, if you're not out there practicing daylight to dark and the other guys are, you're definitely going to be behind the ball a little bit.
Yeah, Rich, that's a lot, man. Most of the competitors are running for a cold beverage after a day of fishing, and you're hitting the books, man. That's that's very impressive, Banks. And
it's definitely cool. One good thing is like the team we have there at North Alabama, like Dylan and Carter and a few other guys. Like, a lot of us take the same classes, so we can kind of talk with the professors and give them kind of a rundown of what we're going to be doing, and they'll all understand pretty much. And along with that, we can all work together, and that helps out a ton.
That's great. Are you purely online? Do you have to attend classes at all? Is it purely online?
Yeah, so there are some courses like where we really don't have the choice. We have to do it in person. And like pretty much like this semester, like the spring semester, I kind of took it a little light just because I can graduate in one more semester along with like a lot of other guys like the Nut Brothers and everything. But the fall, we're not as busy as we are in the spring. So that's kind of whenever I typically add a few more hours to my schedule and everything like that and try to grind out as much as I can while I have a little bit of free time. And we'll mix in some winter classes, summer classes, just to kind of try to make it a little easier. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure all of us, we're gonna hammer down this fall and try to grind out as much as we can. And I'm hopefully going to graduate this fall, but if not, like, I'm not just going to make it to where I'm going to have to be on the computer all the time. Like, I'm going to keep it as light, but a little bit more than the spring as possible, and get done with it as soon as possible. Because it's definitely it's not the best feeling being at a big tournament and not only like worrying about doing good at the tournament, but worrying about your classes at the same time.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, I mean, it's got to be tough to compartmentalize that, because, like, I mean, hell, I know I can relate to that. Like, it's when you got other stuff going on and you're not completely thinking about just the fishing, dude, it affects you. Like, it absolutely affects you. But like, that's not going to change, right? Like, through the course of your fishing career, it's never like, you're always going to have to balance, you know, whether it be school, you know, later on, it already is for you, sponsors. We talked yesterday, your work on sponsors. How do you have like do you have a strategy for when you go into fishing mode, not letting anything else become a distraction for you?
Oh yeah, I definitely do just kind of look at it in a way where I try to get everything done before, like, if it's possible. Some assignments, like, I can't open them up or something like that until like the day it's due or something like that. If it's an exam or like a big test or something of that nature. But for the most part, whenever I'm out there fishing a tournament, that's pretty much all that's on my mind. Like, whenever you like to do it as much as I do, like, you kind of just zone out everything else. And like, that's all you're gonna about. Like, I won't even think about it during the day, and I'll get back and I'm like, oh yeah, I better look at my computer, and I kind of get on there and do it. But it's definitely like, it's crazy as it sounds, it really doesn't bother me at all out there. Like I just go do my thing and try to do as good as possible in the tournament, and then just worry about that when I get off the water.
Yeah. Well, it's tremendous and it's inspirational. Scott weighing in on the chat board. It is. It really is. Brooks Parker, who I travel with, he's in Montevallo, just graduated from there, and he practiced with me a couple times, and we practiced daylight till dark, and then he stayed up till midnight doing his finishing his schoolwork, and it's inspirational, and it's going to set you guys apart that are, able to work that hard, not in fishing and in life. So it's tremendous, and want to say it is very inspirational, Scott. I agree. And good morning, Tim. Good morning, Scott. Good to have you guys with us. Banks, are you still fishing the college derbies? Are you still fitting those in?
Oh, I'm going to try to fish maybe one or two more. I fished like the college classic this year, and I was kind of thinking like that'd be a good one to kind of end it all on, just because it's a pretty big tournament, and me and my partner were able to qualify for that. But if there's one that kind of lines up, like I'll be in that area at a certain time and like just got through a tournament and have some free time to do it, or one close by school, then I'll definitely jump in a tournament. I mean, like I fished like 3 tournaments back to back to back, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to just have a few days to kind of relax. And then like soon as I have a couple of days to kind of relax, like I'm just itching to go out there again. Like I'll want the free time, and then once I get it, I'm like, dude, I can't do this without fishing tournaments. Like I enjoy just going out every now and then, just kind of being able to just fish slow and not have to be in a fast pace, like worry about finding fish, catching fish so quick and everything. But at the same time, man, I love the pressure that tournaments put on you and everything like that, and competing with those guys.
What was the biggest learning curve that you had that you've dealt with to this point, going into the Bass Pro Tour, every fish counts format, knowing what your competitors are catching, having that kind of, all in pressure all the time?
Yeah, it's definitely a completely different ball game compared to most tournaments. It's one of those deals, whenever you're doing well, it helps you a lot, just because like, whenever like, hey, you can leave this area alone, you're good, you're going to make the next day or the cut or whatever. So you can back off whenever you you need to. But it really hasn't been that much of a change for me, just because like the way I looked at it was like most 5-fish tournaments that I've done really well in, like I can think like a very, very few that like where I would only catch like 6 or 7 fish or something like that, versus like most of them like that I do well in. Like I'm catching a lot of fish, so I kind of go into it with the same mindset, just a little different here and there, just because you'll run into situations where it's like a 2-pound minimum, and like you're running into a bunch of just like underscorable sized fish, and you kind of change up your game plan a little bit. And at the same time, like we have like the heavy hitters as well. So you have to mix in whenever you understand, like you're okay, like you're in the cut, like you get the chance to go look for like one of those big fish that you have to have at the end of the year to make the heavy hitters event, which is a pretty big event.
What you got? These are different. You got Rich. You brought up the different format in the MLF. You're successful there. You're successful everywhere you're going. The college format's a team format. Which is the hardest one to do well in? They're all so different, and there's like 500 boats sometimes in the college tournaments. What do you think? Which one's the hardest one to be successful in?
That's a pretty easy question for me. I would say 100% the college level, man. I mean, those guys. Wow. There's not a ton on the line in a college tournament. Like you can definitely win some money and qualify for bigger tournaments with the national championship, whatnot. And those guys pretty much, they go out there just trying to win the tournament, basically. And like you said, I mean, some tournaments, there's pretty much every college tournament, there's well over 200 boats in it. So it forces you to find just kind of stuff off the beaten path, versus most pro level tournaments. It's a lot smaller field, so you can kind of dial in some more obvious areas and do well that way. But the college level, it pushes you to definitely catch them a lot better, and find stuff off the beaten path. Like I was saying, those guys in college are definitely no joke. I mean, as you can see over the past couple of years, the college guys, just how fast they're coming up in the sport and everything, just like with what Easton did, like winning the class, and here Dylan is still in college, and just several other guys like jumping up in the pro level tournaments, the highest level you can be so quick. And that's kind of why I jumped on like the pro level stuff while I was still in college, just because I knew what was coming up behind me for the most part. Like those guys, they're no joke at all. They go out there and spend a ton of time on the water, and yeah, they're definitely really good anglers.
Wow, that's I guess not too surprising how tough that college group is. I want to ask you a few things because I'm looking at this stuff right now with my boy. But how did you pick your partners? How'd you come along to your college partner? What do you recommend on how to get that relationship going for somebody getting into college fishing?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways you can kind of look at it. You can look at it like if you kind of just want to run the show deal, like you want to be the one running the boat, kind of finding the fish, running the trolling motor. You can kind of find a guy that just wants to kind of go out there and enjoy it and learn, or you can look for a guy that's like just as good as you are or something like that. But at the same time, you'll kind of run into situations where you might kind of butt heads a little bit. But for the most part, it kind of goes to where like you just find a guy like you can get along with the best, and kind of somebody you've known for a little bit. Go out and fish with them some before you actually team up. Make sure it's a good choice.
Yeah, getting along's key. We hear that over and over, Rich. Mm-hmm. But let's get into it. You have separated yourself in this world of forward facing sonar where everybody's trying to get good, and you've been able to separate yourself. What let me start out by asking you what do you think that you do maybe that other guys are missing or and not so good at, not seeing on their sonar units? What are you doing differently?
I mean, I wouldn't say I do anything too differently. It's mainly like just your mindset going into like, let's say like a new body of water. Like the first thing I do is like try to just break down the lake, like understand what's going on. I mean, there's certain times like you can pull up to a lake like during the spring, like there's going to be some spawning activity going on that deal, or like if it's wintertime, like they're going to be like pre-spawn for the most part. So like what I like to do typically, like when I'm going to a lake, like first thing is I pull up to like just a super obvious place. Like if you pull up to a big point, it's obvious like there's going to be fish somewhere in the general area for the most part, like first dot going into a creek or something like that. You can kind of just pull up somewhere like that and you can understand kind of what's going on. Like that's just a good starting point. Like pulling up to something that isn't as obvious. It's not as easy to just know there's going to be fish in the area, but like say you just pull up to something that's that obvious, like there's going to be fish around. You can understand how they're acting, understand just kind of what stage they're in a little better, and then you kind of just build on it from there on throughout the practice or tournament.
Is that mostly done with your rod out of the water? Are you scanning on your sonar? Are you in the cockpit doing that? How are you doing that?
So like the best thing to do is just pull up and just drop the trolling motor. And I mean, with like forward facing sonar, I mean, you can pretty much tell what's going on around you. Like if there's some structure, like you're probably going to see some fish around that. Like fish typically are going to relate to structure on any lake you go to for the most part. And then there's certain times like where they'll be kind of doing their own thing, roaming around looking for bait fish. So it's a good way to just kind of get a really good starting point, understand kind of what's going on, just starting on something that's super obvious and then kind of build on it from there on out.
So at the point that you drop your trolling motor in the water banks, for anybody that's listening that is just getting into forward-facing sonar fish, generally speaking, there's usually more than just bass going on, right? Like so let's talk micro and macro. Do you at the very beginnings try to just get an understanding of exactly what the bass are doing, or do you look at the area as more so like a whole ecosystem, trying to understand what's going on with everything, not only the bass, the bait, the trash fish, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, you definitely have to kind of look at it like a whole ecosystem, like because there's definitely going to be certain areas where there's just not much of like a good population of like all the ingredients a bass needs for it to be like a good area that'll produce kind of what you're looking for the most part. So like I'll drop the troll motor down, and I mean, I'm going to look for bait, structure, and any kind of fish that are going to give me like some kind of good reaction to my bait. Like sometimes your other fish will react to your bait, but for the most part, that's like your easiest giveaways. Like a bass is going to at least acknowledge whatever bait you throw at it, no matter pretty much what it is. Like if you throw a jig out there, it'll probably fall it to the bottom. Throw a minnow out there, it'll probably follow it or come up to it and follow it. So it's just kind of a telltale sign. Like whenever you drop the troll motor, see some bait around, that's a good sign. Like there's probably going to be some bass nearby, some kind of predator fish, and then the reaction of the fish whenever you do start to see some is kind of the biggest way to tell that it's going to be a predator bass.
What brand are you using? And let's talk a little bit about that and what your setup is.
So I run 2 Garmin's up front, so because we can use 2 transducers in Major League Fishing. So I have 2 LVS 34 unit or transducers with 2 8616 Garmin units. I have one in perspective, one in forwards most of the time, just because you can see little things you'll miss with your forward on your perspective at times for sure. Then like spawning fish, you can see them really good with your respective unit. Then forward, it's kind of the one where you dial in your cast, like make the exact cast to the fish, and it's by far, I mean, from what I've seen, kind of my go-to unit, just because it's kind of I mean, I started with active target and I switched to it. It just seems like it's a more live image. There's no delay or anything like that, and I can kind of understand what's going on a lot better with it as far as like fish being sucked down to the bottom. I think I can see a little better than like when it comes to like fry guards and that kind of deal. I can see the ball of fry and just little things that stand out, like a fish like sucked down to a piece of structure. I think I can pick them out personally better on the Garmin unit.
Talk to me about your settings. What's your color palette, and what do you like?
I don't switch color palettes very often. I mainly just run amber, and I mainly keep my color gain on like around like 60, my color limit about 40, and then I'll have my gain. I try to keep my gain as high as I can possibly kind of withstand it pretty much. So like obviously the higher you go up on your gain, the more fuzzy it's going to get. Right. So I'll keep it kind of in a ballpark from like, I would say 76% to around like 67%, I would say. And I'll kind of vary that at times, but most of the time I'm in the 70s ballpark.
You're running hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I like to have it as high as I can possibly stand it, just because it allows me to see just a little bit more versus if I have it cranked way down.
Yeah, they're coming in charred. You know, you're burning on them pretty good. That's I mean, but that takes time, right? Because like you said, like as much as you can withstand it. And I know when you run your settings that high, you get a lot going on in your screen. How do you kind of see through the noise or the fuzz?
I mean, it's kind of one of those things, like whenever you get out there, like I said, like you pull up to your first like super obvious spot and like get just kind of any kind of little clue and start to build on it, it'll just start clicking pretty much. And then from there on out, like it's just all just kind of just a process for the most part. Like you understand exactly what's going on a lot of times just once you get that first little clue, and it just kind of, like I said, it all clicks from there on out, and you can just kind of tell right away, like that's going to be a bass sitting right there on that stump. That's a bass chasing that ball of bait right there. That's a bass just kind of roaming around doing its own thing. Like a lot of times they do that, and they're whenever they start to transition into the winter pattern, they'll just float around, not even around bait a lot of times, but they'll be on the hunt for some bait.
Do you feel like you have to, like for every body of water you go to, kind of reassess the tells that tell you what a bass is, what a carp is, what a catfish is? Like, does that process change at all as you move from place to place?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like there'll be some places I'll go to, and like I'll go out, and like it doesn't always just work exactly how you want it to.
Right.
Like you go to places and like you're just kind of struggling a little bit, and then I'll just kind of tell myself, like, keep it simple. Like if I get around fish, like I'm gonna know they're here. Like I'm gonna see them, they're gonna show themselves. for the most part. I mean, some lakes you'll go to and it's just shallow fisheries, and you're just gonna have to turn it off for the most part. Like you'll kind of understand. I mean, if you do your research, like you'll know some lakes like it can hurt you more than it can help you. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, like I'll be out there and like I'll just kind of tell myself like, dude, if I'm around them, like I'm gonna see them, they're gonna show themselves somehow. They're gonna give me some kind of little clue that's like what they're doing, and they're around. Like I'll have some fish follow me or something like that, and eventually put it together.
So when you first get your troller in the water, are you throwing at everything you see until you start to see that reaction? And then once you see that reaction and eventually catch one, you start to hone it in on, okay, the bass are doing this, the trash are doing this, et cetera, et cetera. They're moving like this, they're moving like that.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to throw it fish that they think are bass and they turn out not to be bass, right? Just because a lot of times, like even like a gar, like you can, most of the time you can tell if it's a gar, but still they can sit at a weird angle where they almost look like a bass sometimes, certain size. Like if it's a giant gar, I mean, you're going to know that like it's a gar or something like that. But for a lot of the other junk fish, like, I mean, like you never know. Like you'll see one that looks super, super big, and you're like, no way, that's a bass. Like just because there's usually not that many big ones in the fishery you're on or something like that. And you throw to it, you're like, holy cow, this actually is a bass. But yeah, it definitely takes. I mean, you can't throw it bass 100% of the time, no matter where you go. I feel like unless there are some fisheries where like there's pretty much just like striper and bass in the lake or something like that. I mean, you have like your bluegill, like your panfish and things like that, but there are lakes we go to, like, dude, the amount of trash in the lake is it's insane. You're gonna find yourself just kind of having to filter throughout the water column and just kind of pick apart everything until you get the idea, like, hey, this is kind of the level the bass are kind of hanging around, and you just go from there.
Yeah, so I definitely fell victim to that in the past, Pete. When I was first learning FFS, 3 or 4 years ago, I had it so in my head that certain stuff was drum and certain stuff was smallmouth, and like I stopped throwing at stuff that I was seeing for like hours, and then eventually I threw at one, and it's a big smallmouth, and it's like, you dummy, you probably just drove past 20 pounds of fish because I had it locked in that these are all drum, these are all, so like take the lesson, like shouldn't write it off until you're absolutely certain it's
yeah. There's going to be times like that for sure. I mean, I've definitely ran into it a few times myself, like where all of a sudden, like I'll catch one, like you were talking about, like, man, I know for sure I just missed something. Like that's going to happen. Like there's no way it won't happen at times, and you just can't like beat yourself up on it just because it's definitely going to happen to everybody out there on the water. It doesn't just come that easy. Like, I mean, there's certain times where it's a lot tougher to identify the fish. And like I said, sometimes it's super hard to kind of filter out the water when there is just so much going on, but it just takes a lot of practice, and you'll get better at it as time goes on.
Yeah. And there's something to be said. There's like, just because you threw at a fish and it doesn't happen to be a bass, it's a carp or whatever, but you landed your bait and you presented it to that fish, and you know that if it was a bass, it would have given you reaction. Like that's not a dead cast, especially if you're just practicing or if you're just learning it. Like just being able to land your bait, know your ranges without having to stare at your screen, stare at your trolling motor angle, like having that just feel of knowing where your stuff's going it's valuable. You got to be able to, if you're going to efficiently establish whether one thing you're seeing is a bass or a carp or a catfish, like you got to throw at them to figure that out. And if you're not making the casts correctly, you're not going to get the responses from anything. So
I agree. Then you're right, Rich, and great commentary and thanks, really fantastic stuff. When you're looking at these fish and you say you're checking out a new body of water or whatever, what are your go-tos? What are you firing at them first?
So I mean, typically everywhere you go, bass is gonna eat a minnow pretty much. Like, or they're gonna eat bait fish. I'll put it that way. So just a good start is gonna be throwing just any kind of minnow bait out there, just because they're probably at least gonna give it some kind of look. And then that's when like if they don't eat a minnow, which I mean a lot of times now, like you do have a lot of bass just kind of follow your minnow just because most of them have already seen a jig head minnow in places. And then you kind of have to start expanding from that point just because there are plenty of other style of baits now, like all your dice style baits are coming up in the game. And then a lot of times, like once you kind of get the follows and everything like that and understand, like, yeah, that's definitely a bass. Like there's no way it's not just because like you had like 4 or 5 follows, like all the way back to the boat. Like a lot of times some, I'll call them junk fish, like a catfish or a drum will give you attention. But like for the most part, my understanding, like if it's a bass, a lot of times it'll follow you all the way to the boat versus like a catfish or a drum. They'll kind of look at it, follow it for a little ways, and they'll kind of turn off and do their own thing. And that's whenever you can actually kind of just keep it simple. Like a lot of the fish that are kind of out offshore and everything, they've seen so many jig head minnows at this point. You can kind of resort to just your traditional simple baits like a jig, even like a spinner bait, reeling a swim bait over them just because they see so many jig head minnow style baits that they'll actually acknowledge one of those a little better.
That's interesting. The back to the minnow for a second. The weight seems to be so important, and depending on who you talk to, some are wanting to hover that real light, some want to get it down fast to get their reaction. What's your strategy?
So I actually have one of my minnow boxes right here, so you can see I have multiple different size heads and hooks. One thing that I've noticed a lot, like over the past year, I would say after throwing a minnow for several years, like when it first came out, it really didn't matter what kind of minnow size head you had, like they were just going to eat it for the most part. And now it's kind of transitioned into where like the lightest, smallest head and smallest hook you can go with is probably going to be your best option just because like every bait out there has a hook on it. And those fish definitely see more hooks than anything else. And they can see if you have like, say like a 5-inch bait with a 4-aught hook in it, like there's a pretty good portion of the bait with like a shiny little silver hook hanging off of it. So they've definitely started to key in on that, I think. So like, I've started to switch to just like the smallest hook I can pretty much withstand. So I'll throw a 1 or 2-aught a lot of times, and then I'll go as light as a 16th, like a 16th, 3/32, and 1/8. It's kind of my go-to range right there. Sometimes there's lakes where you'll want a quarter though, but 9 times out of 10 it's going to be your lighter style jig head just because it's more natural, just because you can hover your bait over the fish, and as soon as they come up on it, you can work it a little faster, and it allows it to go up instead of versus like a heavy head. It wants to kind of just stay horizontal. And any kind of bait fish, they tend to shoot straight up to the top of the water. Like whenever you see fish schooling, that's what bait does. Like there'll be bass under them, they come after them, they're going to go to the surface, and that's the most realistic kind of way you can present a jig head minnow into looking like a bait fish fleeing from a bass. Is with a super light jig head.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. The Koik just took the world over all of a sudden. Did you jump on? Did you take advantage of that? Were you ahead of the curve on that one?
Yeah, I definitely have caught a lot of big fish on the like the Koiki style baits. I mean, there's plenty of other styles as well. It's kind of one of those deals where a lot of people think it like it resembles a lot of different types of baits or whatever you want to call it in the water. But I think whenever they're eating crawfish, they eat it really well just because, as everybody knows, you kind of pulse it through the water. And what a crawfish does in the water, it pulses through the water when it kicks, and it has all the legs under it. So I think that's a lot of times kind of what it resembles in my mind, a crawfish. Like whenever I've caught them on one, best I've seen a lot of crawfish pinchers in my live well at points, or them just kind of spitting up little claws and everything like that on the deck or whatnot. But it's crazy how that bait looks and how well it actually works. Like it's definitely kind of took over the game right now, and I definitely do enjoy throwing one. It's a good way to get a really big bite.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're seeing it obviously dominate, and so we got the minnow, we got dice style baits and conventional tools. That's a really interesting take on it. That those fish are getting tired of the minnow, or at least they're getting overexposed to it at a variety of places.
What kind of jig heads were they, Banks?
These are the VMC tungsten jig heads. It's kind of my favorite just because it had, like I was talking about the hooks. I should have mentioned this earlier. So a lot of your jig head minnow hooks and like the tungsten is super shiny, like your plain tungsten jig head. It's gonna be a shiny silver, and I think that's something they're gonna pick out and see a lot. This is like a matte gray color, so it blends a lot better along with the hook. This is like a nano coated hook, so it's not like your nickel color, and it has some shine to it. That's one of my biggest kind of like pet peeves out there with a jig head minnow is just having it blend in the water as best as possible.
Right. And what kind of tackle storage box is that?
Oh, it's just a Rapala jig head box. It's got the foam little insert in the bottom of it. And you can just kind of put all your jig heads in line. I have all my eighths and my quarters on this side, and then in the middle I have even my lighter style jig heads. So
gotcha. Where do you land, Banks, with rod reel, like rod power, reel, line weights?
Yeah, honestly, kind of one thing that I've picked up on as far as like line goes is you really don't need as lot as line as a lot of people think. In my personal opinion, like I'm gonna go. I like to throw like Suffolk's 14 pounds just advanced if I can get away with it most of the time. Like very, very little times I'll move down to like a 10-pound leader. But like I said, line size really doesn't matter that often from what I've seen. So I'm like 10 to 14 pounds, kind of my ballpark of the line size. And then like braid, I throw even lighter. I mean, like 8 or 10 pound Suffolk's 832. Just because like the lighter braid you go, the better castability you're going to have. And that's definitely one of the biggest things with as far as like fish getting pressured on forward facing sonar nowadays. Like a lot of times you want to hit those fish anywhere from like 70 to 100 feet, but sometimes you can present your bait better like at that 30 or 40 feet range. But with how smart the fish are now, you pretty much have to hit them at you have to hit them like just the right distance just to present your bait just right to get those fish to commit. But as far as the rod goes, my go-to just kind of all around, like just like your 7.3 medium heavy casting rod, like it's just kind of your all-purpose like casting rod. I would say for the same kind of the same reason, like my all-purpose spinning rod is going to be just a 610 medium light. I like the 13 fishing myth. Just because like I can pretty much throw everything on that rod that I need to. I can throw my light jig head minnow. I can throw my smaller dice style baits, and most of the time, your just kind of medium to smaller size baits are going to work better than your oversized baits. Like a lot of times, your oversized baits will work on certain fisheries that are super big fish, but for the most part, fisheries, I mean, your fish are in that, I would say, like 3 to 6 pound class range, and those just medium to smaller size baits are going to work. So that 610 medium light is just my all around go-to all-purpose spinning rod.
Nice.
We're seeing a lot of that heavier line being used. You're in that zone with that. I want to ask you this, like a lot of the tournaments we just fished, I fished it for the first time, BFL. I had to decide when to use my forward facing, and you have to make choices like that in all your fishing. How are you managing your time, and what are you doing with it?
Yeah, so time management as far as forward facing sonar goes in the like the pro circuit and the Bass Pro Tour. I mean, we have 2.5 hours to use it in the Bass Pro Tour, then 3 hours to use it in the pro circuit. The one good thing about the pro circuit is you can kind of turn it on whenever you're feeling like it. Bass Pro Tour, you have to pick a period and turn it on. So one thing I do during practice is I try to dial in just the best just kind of bite time throughout the day. And I try to make the absolute most of my forward-facing sonar period that I can, just because, I mean, I feel like I can definitely do a good bit of damage with it, just because I've got pretty well with it over the past couple of years. So it's a crucial part of my tournament day, no doubt. So I'll try to dial them in as much as I can in practice, just kind of the perfect bite window. A lot of times, I mean, I feel like more than not, most lakes you go to, it's going to be in the morning time just because a lot of the fish, I mean, low light conditions, they're not going to be able to see as well. And it tends to allow the fish to bite or allows you to catch the fish a little better when they might be a little finicky on you. But I mean, I've also seen it at times where like you can be fishing kind of structure and it's a later in the day deal. That's most of the time, the only time that I'll kind of utilize it later in the day is if I'm fishing around any kind of wood, just because it takes sunlight at certain times to get those fish to actually set up on that piece of structure.
Are you having success when you're not using it? Like I know, you hear that rap you get from guys, or that reputation that, man, they can catch them when they're using it, but when they're not using it, they don't catch them as good. How is your skill set outside of forward facing sonar?
Man, I'm honestly just as confident as fishing without it. I mean, you can definitely target fish a lot easier with it. It's like whenever you get it dialed in on a lake, it's definitely a pretty deadly tool whenever you have the fish pattern well. But I mean, I really do enjoy fishing for kind of the same fish I would fish for with it without it. Like last year in the it was called the Invitationals last year. Like we had day 1 with forward facing sonar, day 2 without, and then day 3 with it. And like that was it was like my best day throughout the whole entire year in the tournament trail was day 2, just because I felt like I was really good at targeting those same forward-facing sonar fish without it for the most part, just because I would pay so much attention to what's going on, kind of down there under the water. Whenever I would have it, how the fish would react and everything, exactly like how they were setting up, where exactly they were sitting, and I could just kind of dial that in whenever I would have the technology, and then just kind of apply it to whenever I don't have it, and just kind of visualize it, I guess, like from above water, like kind of what's going on down there, just because I'd have such a good idea once I was able to use it in practice and just understand exactly what's going on around me.
What if you had to? What do you like better?
I mean, I'm definitely kind of a mix. I enjoy catching them 100% both ways. Like I would say my favorite way to fish is definitely using it in a way, but also not really. Like I like to catch them on a crankbait. That's probably one of my favorite ways to catch bass. I would say is cranking, and a lot of times you'll have to use like your forward facing to just kind of line up the cast just so you can be more efficient doing it. So you can just line up your cast, and I mean, once you get your cast down, you're not really using it as much. Like after you know you made the perfect lineup on the fish, and you just kind of wind your bait down through there. But that's definitely probably my favorite way to catch bass, I'd say, is just throwing a crankbait around. I really like to deep crank. That's probably my go-to. I mean, it's a lot of guys that grow up on the TVA. It's kind of their same deal. It's definitely a bait out here you have to have in your lineup.
Heck yeah. It's happening right now, right? I mean, it's post spawn, or it's real close to it at the beginning of it. It's crankbait season, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually right here on the shores of Lake Chickamauga right now at my house here in Harrison. So they're definitely chewing out there right now. Right after we get done with this, I'm gonna go catch some, no doubt. I've been itching to get out there. I'm gonna fish Chickamauga, Nickajack, and Gunnersville the next few days, just because I haven't been able to go out there since the fish have kind of transitioned to their deeper summer holes. We've been having a lack of rain, but fortunately this week we definitely got some rain, and there's some water flowing through the river, and it sets those fish up out on the offshore holes and the little underwater current breaks, and it makes it easy to kind of target them, and they group up and they get really, really kind of feisty down there, and they compete over your baits, and that's whenever you can catch some of the biggest bags and the most fish, and have some of the most fun, in my opinion.
Well, you won on Pickwick this time of year. Last year, was that the deal? I mean, it's post spawn. Were you cranking them up?
Oh, I did catch a few cranking them up last year on Pickwick, but also something that goes on this time of year is a shad spawn, and that's mainly what I kind of did my damage on was a offshore shad spawn. I wish I had some LiveScope footage to kind of show you guys what that looks like offshore, but kind of the telltale sign that there's a shad spawn going on is whenever you're kind of throwing out, like, well, first off, you're going to see a lot of shad on your graph, whether it's your 2D side scan or your forward facing sonar. But the biggest kind of giveaway to all that is like having multiple shad follow your bait into the boat, and kind of bumping into your bait as you're reeling it in. And that's definitely a big deal. I mean, pretty much every lake you go to, like a shad spawn is definitely a deal, whether it's like a herring or a shad spawn or a gizzard shad. It's definitely something that bass key in on when they're spawning, just because it allows them to eat the bait very easily, just because they're spawning up there. They're not worried about running from the bass. They're just kind of sitting there doing their thing, spawning. It allows them to just come up and do their thing. But yeah, that was my biggest deal out there on Pickwick, was a offshore shad spawn with a chatterbait in that tournament.
That's cool. Offshore. Well, I mean, we see it all the time, right? They're spawning on docks. They're spawning on shoreline grass. What are they doing offshore? The river bars. What are they spawning on out there?
So the shad out on the river bars, they pretty much just look for any kind of structure to spawn on. So like any kind of just really rough shell bar, rock pile, that kind of deal. It's definitely something that kind of gets a little overlooked, just because, like you said, like most people go to a boat dock or something like that and look for a shad spawn. That's also a great way to find one as well. But there's certain lakes where kind of the offshore shad spawn can be a little better and overlooked than the kind of shad spawn that goes on a little bluff, or kind of like some lay down, just any kind of structure they can spawn on. They're gonna do it.
How deep are those like rough spots and rock
spots? They definitely will not spawn, I think, really any deeper than, I would say, like 12 foot. So anywhere from like the offshore shad spawn goes on, I'd say 12 to really like 12 to a foot. If you can find the shallow water out there offshore, then they'll definitely be spawning on something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 12 is deeper than I would have expected. Like, just for, a guy that's never fished a shad spawn, because I don't know why we don't have that on the bay, Pete, but we don't have a shad spawn. I've always thought of, like you said, Pete, shallow docks, wood, shoreline cover, bushes, leaves, like all that stuff. So to hear that the shad actually spawn in 12 feet of water is like, the magic box has not only allowed us to learn about bass, it's also allowed us to learn about how they truly operate.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It goes into the same deal, like how we learn like that the bass spawn so deep as well in places like we catch them, like out in Texas. Those guys catch them spawning in like 20 feet out there at times. And then also the fry guarding, it's pretty crazy, like how you can utilize your electronics now and understand the fry guarders, like how deep they'll even get. I was just on beaver out there in Arkansas, and the water was super clear, and that definitely probably was the main reason why the fry guarders were so deep. But I actually saw my deepest fry guarders that I've ever seen. They were actually guarding their fry down in like 18 to 20 feet, which blew my mind. It's definitely one of those deals. The water's got to be clear enough to actually get some sunlight down there to them. But it's unreal, kind of the little ins and outs you can learn as far as like the spawning bass, the spawning shad, fry guard, and just actually how deep that stuff will go on as well, that we all missed years ago.
That's crazy deep. What's it look like on your forward-facing sonar? Like your shad spawn in 12 feet of water, you're seeing the groups of bait, you're seeing the shad follow your bait, or are you seeing wolf packs of bass down there? What is it?
A lot of times there'll be so much shad that you can't really see the bass at all for the most part. So
wow.
You gotta have the right water temperature. So you look for like anywhere from like high 60s, I would say 68 to mid 70s, like 75-degree water temp. That's whenever your shad are going to start spawning best. And then what you look for on your forward-facing sonar is pretty much just your entire screen covered with shad. And then, but you got to be like around an area that makes sense. So like I said, there's got to be some kind of general structure down there to kind of hold some fish. Like, you can make a cast, like there's probably going to be a bass in that general area. Like I was saying, pulling up on a point, like an obvious place, like you look for the same thing offshore. And if you pull up and your whole screen's kind of covered with shad, you can see them flickering down on the bottom, that kind of deal, also following you in, like I was saying there, then it's just a telltale sign there's a shad spawn going on.
And that's that's a crankbait bite too, right? You can, when they're in that deep water, they're probably it's funny because I really hadn't thought about it all the years we've been fishing in the post spawn, but I was probably fishing around the shad spawn out on those ledges and didn't really understand exactly what was going on. But you're explaining it nicely now. That's probably exactly how we were catching them.
Yeah, a crankbait can be good. I've just always found better results with just a more like shad related bait, like a chatter bait with a good fluke style trailer on it or a swim bait. But I've definitely caught them on a crankbait. It just seems like they want something that'll be a little bit off the bottom, pretty much. So like what I'll do with my chatterbait, fishing a shad spawn, I'll throw it out, let it hit bottom, and just slow roll it back to the boat. Same thing with a swim bait, your scrounger. You can throw a hair jig. I mean, just any kind of just shad related baits. But for the most part, for some reason, they still want to feed up on the bait versus kind of feeding down. Like there's certain times where they will eat a crankbait, but there's going to have to be a lot of them there. And it's kind of one of those deals where they're probably just going to eat no matter what you throw in there.
Right. Are you playing around with those heavier chatterbaits, 3/4 ounce and a half?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm fishing out deep, then I'm definitely gonna have to bounce up just kind of my jig head weight size. So like if I'm fishing, like I said, like a 12-foot shad spawn or something like that, then I'm probably gonna bump up to like a 3/4 or the 1 ounce.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. That's good. That's fantastic stuff. The Pickwick Pirate says when these UNA guys can just concentrate on fishing, how deadly are they really going to be once you guys get done school? I have no idea, Banks. It's going to be tough. You guys are going to be tough to contend with. You're tough to contend with now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable just looking back, like where we were at. I mean, just even like 3 years ago, like being freshmen, sophomores in college, like we were just out there competing in college tournaments, and then we were kind of thinking like, hey, we were thinking about jumping into some pro stuff, and like where we're at now, like with Dylan just winning the Classic. I'm making the Bass Pro Tour last year. Carter doing so well this year, probably going to make the Bass Pro Tour as well. And just like looking back, like 2 years ago, where we were at, then and now, it just like it doesn't even really make sense at all. It's unreal.
It's happening so fast. Is it because you guys are fishing every day? Is it because you're comparing notes? How are you fast tracking that learning curve?
Man, I think it's just because we've had such a good like just environment growing up. Like we've fished every single like high school tournament, college tournament we could. Like we've always just been all in on bass fishing. Like that was all of our mindsets growing up, was just making it to the pro level. And whenever you have like a dead set mindset on something that you really want to do, I mean, you're going to eventually make it happen no matter what. If you put the time and effort into it, it's just a matter of time when it's going to happen. That's kind of my thinking on everything that's going on there at UNA with these boys.
How important is it geographically where you're at with UNA and Northern Alabama in particular? It offers so much diversity.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest things that like we've picked up on in the past couple of years being at UNA, just because like we have Pickwick, it's your traditional TVA fishery. And then just above Pickwick, it's also a TVA fishery, but it's called Wilson Lake, and it's like one of the best smallmouth fisheries on the TVA. And it's allowed us to learn the tail race fishing really good than Pickwick. I mean, we already kind of knew what was going on there, but we also have like Bay Springs, Smith Lake. Those are both spotted bass lakes close by. So then there's our spotted bass fisheries that we can learn from. And then we have all kind of smaller, just little state lakes around. And those are just kind of similar to, I think, your like Texas fisheries that are a little bit smaller with a lot of timber in them, that kind of deal. So we literally have pretty much everything other than northern smallmouth fishing. And then I'd say like your Florida kind of style fishing. So it's definitely like it's an awesome little area to not grow up in, but like learn throughout college in. And I mean, it sets you up to be so versatile out on the road and everything and all these fisheries you go to. And I think like once you can kind of like go to a tournament and relate it to something that you've done in the past, like say like I'm at just say I'm at a lake in Arkansas and I'm like, man, this is just like fishing on Bay Springs. Like whenever you can relate it to something you've already done before, then that allows you to like really get comfortable with it and do really well.
Are you coached at UNA, or is it a student run group? How does that work?
For the most part, it's student ran. So we have a couple guys that help us out quite a bit, like Brian Martin or Jeremy Martin, Brian Morgan. Those guys help us out a lot. They're just kind of the guys that are there for if we miss some schoolwork, pretty much. They'll kind of help us out on that end of things. But we pretty much do it all on our own while we're on the road fishing. So we don't have a coach that goes with us. We're all on our own, and that's also one thing that's pretty cool for whenever like we do go to the pro level stuff. Is like it's no change at all for us. Like we've been doing it on our own throughout college and everything. So it's right in our ballpark. It's no change at all.
Well, you guys have done. It's unreal. It's unreal the group there in which you guys have been able to accomplish. I want to ask you this question because people are watching, want to know if somebody wants to get good at this, forward facing. If they want, how did you do it? How would you recommend somebody goes out and practices and develops their skill set? What did you do? What do you recommend people do to get good at this as quick as they can?
The best way, I think I'm going to kind of relate back to the first thing I look for when I go to a lake. Go out on whatever fishery you're around and just go to some super obvious places, like just a super obvious point. There's going to be some fish around. They're going to relate to just the super obvious stuff, no doubt, and then just kind of slow down. Like you can't fish too fast. Throw it pretty much everything you see. That's a good way to start. You can't go out there and skip over some things that you might not think are bass because it'll definitely surprise you more than not. And just spend time doing it pretty much. It's about like everything else. The more time you put into it, the more it's just going to start clicking along the way. Are
you an everyday angler?
Yeah, I definitely fish every single day.
Wow. That's amazing. It's and we see this so much with the guys, especially the guys in college. It's the guys that are fishing every day that are able to separate themselves. Mark has a question. How much does your major help you in fishing? What is your major?
So my major is geography, same thing as Dylan's. So it definitely helps a fair amount as far as like the map study part. So we just get dialed in kind of a little bit more on the way we look at contours, I guess you could say. Some kind of satellite maps. We have a few satellite maps like we use in our geography courses, and we can kind of relate it to some lakes we go to. But for the most part, it's just kind of playing around with contours a little bit more than just fishing on the water.
I guess geography would be your plan B, which doesn't look like we're going to be needing a plan B. But what direction career-wise would that send you?
Man, if the fishing wasn't going to work out, then I would probably honestly try to work for just some kind of like Humminbird or like Navionics or whatever it is, and like map out lakes. I think that's something that I would enjoy and that we can do with our degree is go out there on the water and just idle around a whole lake and make a new mapping or just kind of like update mapping and everything. So it'd be pretty cool to do that if the fishing didn't work out, but I'm definitely planning on sticking with the fishing as long as I can.
I got a quick question from Dave on the Bass U board. How far out do you set your range on your scope?
Okay, so it definitely it's just like my game. Like I varied a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So certain lakes where the water can be a lot dirtier and they're a lot harder to see, just because like your screen, it'll have a lot more interference on it. I'll bump it into around 60 or 70 feet. That's about the shortest I'll go. Like if I'm fishing for some spawning fish and they're super hard to understand they're actually spawning, I'll bump it into that. Or if I'm fishing really, really small pieces of structure, like a lot of times a bass will sit on a little bitty twig And that's whenever you're going to have to bump it in a lot shorter just to see these super, super small differences. And then if I go to a lake where it's like super clear, like if you see one, it's probably going to be a bass. That's whenever I can bump it out to like 110, 120 feet. And then my as far as my depth goes, I mean, some lakes you will catch fish down super deep, but for the most part, in general, I keep mine at 30 feet to 35 feet just because that 30, 35 number, you can tell the size of the fish a lot better than as far as like if you had it like if you were catching your fish in 10 foot and you just had it set on like 18 or 20 feet, they're all going to kind of look pretty big on your screen. It's a lot harder to tell the difference of the size on the fish. So for the most part, I keep it from 60 to 70 feet as far as my range goes to like 100 to 120. Then my depth range 30, 35.
Great question. Great answer. Do you use a standard bracket where it's down low? Do you raise it up? What are you using there?
So I just use the Fish Obsessed mount for my forward and my perspective, and I like to keep mine a little bit angled up, I guess you could say. It's like the bottom beam. I don't keep it perfectly level with the head of my trolling motor. I'll angle it up just one notch. That way I can kind of see up on the surface just a little bit better. And then as far as my perspective goes, I don't keep it completely level unless I'm super, super shallow. That's whenever I'll have my perspective completely level. And then if I'm out a little deeper, which most of the time I am on my perspective, like as far as like 6 to 10 foot, I'm going to have it just one notch down. That way it's just a little bit leveled down and I can see really well as far as the perspective goes doing that.
All right. That's excellent stuff. What's next, Banks? Where are you headed?
Oh, I actually have about 2 weeks to beat on the fish around the house here, and then I'm headed out to Oklahoma, Lake Eufaula out there for the next pro circuit. Then the week after that, Bass Pro Tour also in Oklahoma on Grand Lake. So it'll be 2 back-to-back, and after that, I'm gonna head up north for a few tournaments. So that'll be pretty fun.
That sounds like a nice time. We got another question coming in on how often do you adjust your transducer? You kind of addressed that with depending on your depth change, you keep it level, one up in on your forward and one down on your perspective when you get a little deeper.
Yeah. So I pretty much keep it that way the entire time. Sometimes I will say this I didn't talk about, but you can actually pull up your trolling motor and I guess you can bump your transducer up one more notch. Most of the time I'll just pull up my trolling motor and change my install depth a little shallower to see those fish when they're actually like glued to your boat dock floats. Just because like if your trolling motor's all the way down and your transducer is even farther down, it's not going to see as well up towards the surface. So if you pull up your trolling motor and change your install depth to shallower, like I'll put it to like most of the time I'm on 1 foot, and I'll change it to like half a foot pretty much, and I'll pull my trolling motor way up, and it allows me to see up there like right on the surface really well, and I can sometimes see those fish up glued to the boat floats whenever like it can be cold and they want to sit on like a black dock float or something like that.
Right,
I can see
right.
fish up super, super shallow.
Oh, it's good stuff. Good tech. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for spending time with us. I know it's hard to be inside when things are going on outside right now on the Tennessee River, but I appreciate you being with us.
Oh yeah, it was a great opportunity. Thank you guys for letting me get on the Bass University.
Man, we're glad to have you with us, and man, you've got 4 big wins in the last few years, and I think a lot more is coming. So want to wish you all the best. You need to text us when you get out there today or tomorrow when you're getting on those fish, man. Send us some pics. We'll put them up on our pages. But I appreciate you being with us, Banks.
Sweet. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me once again.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. Thanks, Shaw, everybody. Phenom Riz out on tour. Another Phenom. My gosh, these guys are lighting it up. So very interesting, a lot of high-tech stuff. Let's you and I dive into kind of digest that a little bit when we come back. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with some more Bass University Live.
We're off the clock to clock more fish, to fill our live wells and empty our coolers, because there's more to explore. The latest Humminbird fish finders work fast, see clearly, and know all the best spots. They fish even smarter paired with the Minn Kota and break down the water like never before. If you like your plans loose and lines tight, then it's time to explore. Only with Humminbird. Get right to the fight. New Mega Live 2 forward-facing sonar puts you on more fish with an ultra-clear, rock-solid picture of underwater action. Next-gen clarity, next-level fun. Only with Humminbird.
That is the critical thing, because you've got to be comfortable jerking that jerkbait around your body. You're always going to be working with your rod tip down, maybe a little bit to the side.
You're going to lose traction on that fish. He's going to flop off because he's got this big heavy weight flopping out of his mouth.
And to a bass, that signals in their brain that is an easy meat.
They want to feed up, but they don't want to lose that object. That fish was shallow, he was parallel to where I'm standing.
Reading that screen, watching, throwing, casting, learning.
At Whitewater Fishing Gear, we build gear for the days that test your commitment. The ones launching before daylight, staying out when the wind picks up, and fishing through conditions most guys avoid. Engineered for protection, mobility, and all-day comfort. Built to perform when conditions turn rough, so you stay focused on the pursuit no matter how the elements shift. Whitewater Fishing Gear, built to brave the waves.
When the sun's up and the boat's on, clarity is everything. That's why serious anglers trust Redfin. Built for the water, designed for performance. Lightweight frames, crystal clear optics, and rugged durability that stands up to long days on the water. Thanks to Zeiss Repel technology, water, oil, and even sunscreen just slides right off the lenses. Your vision stays crystal clear. See more, fish smarter, and protect your eyes with Redfin. Redfin polarized sunglasses. Comfort, clarity, contrast.
Mother Nature may be tough. I'm tougher. I'll take you where chaos is the cost of entry and where the fish are worth the fight. Because the bigger the question marks, the better the quest.
Welcome back, everybody. Rich, number one takeaway from what you just heard from Banks Shaw.
Throw it
Putting you on the spot.
Throw it everything.
Throwing everything.
Yeah.
Seeing how they react.
So throw it everything until you get the responses to know what are bass. And I'm gonna put an add on to that for anybody that's trying to learn forward facing sonar. Throw it everything and catch everything. Like if your body of water has to offer bass, it has to offer perch, it has to offer bluegill, it has to offer striper, it has to offer, figure out how to catch all of them. Because the more I'm of the belief that casting and being able to track your bait efficiently, knowing where your bait's going to land in your cone and be able to track it is so important in using this tool. And you can benefit so much from, if you have a school of perch that are willing to bite and you get good at hitting them and understanding where your bait's landing, how your bait's operating in the water, I promise that translates into connecting with bass. If you have a school of striper that are responding to your jerk bait that you can get reps in on, I promise you that helps with learning the tool. And something clicked when we were talking with Banks with just the like, even the highest level guys in the world, they don't pull up to a point, put the troller down and say, those are bass, those are catfish, those are gar, those are drum, those are striper. They have to figure that part out every single time that they put the boat in the water. So that would be my takeaway. Throw at everything, catch everything, unless you're obviously practicing, you don't have time. But when you have those opportunities with biting fish and you're using the box, it's a valuable time to put it to work and learn all the ins and outs, not just the bass.
Yep, that's great takeaway and great observation. I noticed, his commentary about throwing conventional baits because of the overuse of minnows to get reactions out of bass was pretty cool. The transducer adjustments, install depth, being able to see up and down, the use of so many guys are using that landscape mode on their forward units, and just a lot of great stuff, man. A lot of great stuff to learn. I hope all you guys listen closely. His settings he talked about early, which I think is really powerful. If you guys missed that in the beginning of the show, go back and listen. He talks about the exact settings that he prefers on his unit. So you want to get that dialed in a little bit, but that's some great stuff, Rich, as usual on Bass University. Great guest, Banks, Shaw. What's new at Bass University? What was released recently at Bass U, and what do we got coming?
What was released recently at Bass U? Last week we released Hunter Shryock, Practice Like a Pro.
Yes.
Man, such a good seminar on, how to not overcomplicate things. And, really, I mean, it ties right into what Banks just said. Man, sometimes you got to get somewhere obvious, or just get the boat in the water, put the trolling motor down and fish, and just get some bites, fall into rhythm, start to connect with the body of water you're on. And Hunter really emphasized that, really drove that home in last week's seminar. This week's seminar is John Cruz Foolproof Flipping Techniques. Back to the basics again with this one, but I mean, who doesn't love a good flipping bite, Pete? So this week, John Cruz.
I do.
Yeah, all do. Foolproof flipping techniques. I mean, John Cruz has one big flipping, multiple pro level events, and we call him Professor Cruz at Bass U because he's been with us for so long, and he has a masterful way of teaching and connecting with the audience. So that's this week's seminar, John Cruz Foolproof Flipping Techniques.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And download the Bass U app, guys. If you haven't done it yet, get it downloaded and definitely check it out. We keep getting great reviews from it, thanks to the Bass University team working in conjunction with Vimeo and putting together an amazing app that really allows you to find what you're looking for to help you become a better angler. The latest and greatest is geography. Depending on the state you're living in, you want to fish, we have you covered. We have broken down a lot of our training into geographical categories. So you can go check out North Carolina just recently got added, Florida, Texas, Maryland, wherever you're fishing. We have the greatest anglers in the world from those areas teaching about techniques and strategies that excel in those particular regions. So definitely want to go and check that out. Download, whether you're iOS or Android, go download the app. Also watch on your Roku. We know a lot of guys are watching Bass University in their living room on their Roku TV. So go check that out. We're available there too. So a lot of great stuff happening over at Bass University as usual. And we're going to be back next week with another episode of Bass University Live. Riz, you got what do we got going on? I see you look busy over there. Are you getting ready to upload something?
I'm trying to, Pete. I'm trying to pull in our sub of the week, and here it comes.
Stand by
for the sub of the week. Chris Hensey, with a nice largemouth, rocking the Bass U camo. Pretty sure he was wearing it in the Turkey Turkey Woods the week before as well. So Chris Hensey,
okay. I recognize the back of that boat.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, I hope you guys come out and root for all of us because we're going to be busy at the competing in tournaments. I hope you guys get out and do some fishing if you're tournament guys. Highly recommend the Hunter Shryock practice strategies, which was just released. And if you're not a tournament guy, man, oh man, what a great time to be out fishing. It's the spawn, post-spawn, pre-spawn up north. It's all going on right now. It's a great time to get out there and catch some fish, maybe catch your personal best as we're all going for that. So want to wish you guys all the best. Want to thank Justin and Jocelyn and Jeff, and of course you, Riz. Appreciate you guys. And thanks everybody for watching. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Bass University Live.